is the App Store. You know, that we'll have to see what developers do with, but seeing that the Apple ecosystem is kind of the healthiest and biggest one. Most apps will that ecosystem before they make it to Android and other devices. I think they've definitely got a winner there as far as apps go.
Yeah, we are live again on YouTube. I do apologize. This recording will be posted. There'll be a whole video version with the missing content in the middle. The XSplitter crashed and kind of took down the whole system over here for our broadcasting. But yeah, you know, it's the Apple TV. They needed to do something, and they did something. But it does not feel like a killer device, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing is, can they get their people to buy it? Whenever I think of Apple and like sort of their fans, I think about like political strategists who are like, you know, how can we get more soccer moms to vote? How can we get more Southern independent Christian white men between this age and that group to get it? You know, like if Apple can say, how do we get the people who already love our stuff to buy this? There's millions and millions and millions of them. You know what I mean? I mean, if they can reach that audience, if they can reach the audience that's already their core, and then expand out from there, they've got a chance to make a lot of money at this. You know.
The question is there anything here that really makes you want to say, I'm going to ditch my Roku, my Fire TV for this?
Well, depends on. I really like the interactive sport.
Yeah, I was gonna say it depends on how heavily invested you are in the Apple ecosystem. You know, if you're a big iPhone user and you've got a lot of iPhone games and apps, you know, you'll be able to play a lot of those on the TV. So I think that's the main thing that'll kind of pull you away from an existing Roku or Fire TV device. You know, I don't think it's you know, I don't think they've got a home run as far as pulling people off of existing boxes. This is more giving their existing customer base that is heavily invested in the Apple world. You know, if you've got an iPhone, you've got an iPad, and you've got a Mac, this is just one more piece of that puzzle that kind of gets your TV into that whole ecosystem that you're in. You know, the biggest question to me was, you know, is this device going to make people walk into an Apple store and say, I want that device that's going to make me cut my cable. You know, I want that device that's gonna make me replace my cable subscription, and they definitely do not have that with this.
Well,
in my opinion,
the thing is that there's so much market to grow right now. As excited as we are about set-top boxes because we are the guys that we are, you know, the numbers keep showing that. Despite that, there's not all, there might be millions out there, but there's billions of people in the world. And even in the U.S., I cannot remember the stats. It was like 20% of broadband households have a streaming device in general, or something like that, like a set-top box. So that means like there's 80% of the entire broadband public that doesn't have one yet. So I mean, if people walk into an Apple store, they don't have one, they might not be thinking, should I get rid of my Roku? They might just go, oh, well, that looks nice. I do think that the price is a little high. Apple's not big on sales, but I wonder if they'll drop it at some point, like a holiday sale or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. All right, so we've talked a little bit about some of the features. What about third-party apps? I got a little drop there in the middle. Can you run us down any kind of what you saw of the third-party apps they showed or their talk about it?
Well, the big one they talked about was that the shopping with the Guilt app. Which I thought that was funny that someone said they made the point of, you know, you can experience guilt on your couch, and I thought, it's an interesting way to put it. But they didn't really explore that much on third-party apps. More it was they talked about the sports, you know, with the baseball, and they talked about, like I said, the shopping. What I think is interesting about that is that we've been figuring shopping is coming to the Amazon Fire TV. It's going to, you know, LES has pointed out that, you know, it's fully capable of doing it. And yet here's Apple, who doesn't have the largest e-retail store, launching shopping from the TV.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's so much Apple launching shopping, though. It's just more Apple making a device that can on the TV that has apps, and then of course since the Apple ecosystem is the largest one, of course it's going to attract shopping apps that already exist on, say, iPhones and iPads. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon releases an Apple TV shopping app. Maybe even before they release. Honestly, yeah. I mean, that they're not going to be against that. Amazon's going to want to get in on that Apple TV shopping, market. That's for sure. The shopping app for the Fire, or the shopping feature for the Fire TV that we're expecting at some point, will probably be more heavily integrated in, meaning you'll probably be able to use voice search and say, just like you do on the Amazon Echo, you'll be able to say, reorder, order some dog food, and then it'll know that you ordered this type of dog food last, and it'll put in that order, which is the same thing that the Alexa does on the Echo. So, saying that Apple introduced shopping is not completely accurate in my opinion, but yeah, there's definitely going to be some shopping apps.
It is a nice feature to see it on there. One of the things I remember hearing when I interviewed the I forget which shopping network it was I was talking with, but they said when they went to the Roku, their sales skyrocketed. People buying through Roku, and Roku was making a lot of money, getting a cut from that. Because when you would buy through the Roku, Roku processes the payment and takes a fee of that.
Let's talk about what we didn't see. We didn't see 4K. Next Fire TV is right now almost guaranteed to have 4K if that FCC document that we saw come out this morning is accurate. So no 4K on the device, on the new Apple TV. No Touch ID, so you're still going to need to log in to all your different accounts and that kind of stuff to verify your purchases on these shopping apps. Anything else we didn't see?
Not even a slight mention of the rumored streaming or any type of new content coming to the Apple TV. No exclusive originals, no exclusive deals there, it seems like, past some games. There wasn't a lot when it comes down to it being a streaming box to make it stand out at the moment. I do wonder if the lack of 4K will come to bite them in a year or two. I mean, are we expecting them to upgrade this box in a year to include 4K as 4K continues to become more widespread? You get more and more Netflix content, Hulu content coming out on 4K. Of course, Amazon's doing that, but they're still not on the Apple TV. What do you think?
Yeah, I can definitely see the next Apple TV, having 4K. Apple's kind of notorious for holding back features like that. When Touch ID came out on the iPhone, they held it back on the new iPad, and then the following year they introduced it on the iPad. So Apple, even though something is kind of just starting to become a standard feature, something like 4K, not standard feature, but something that's becoming more and more, in people's homes. I wouldn't be surprised if they held that back on purpose just so that they've got something for the next generation.
I think 4K. I think we talked about it before. I mean, adoption of 4K is not all that wide right now. It really isn't. It's not like 10 million people saying, when am I going to have a 4K Roku, or when am I going to have, I think we're going to see a lot more people adopting HD TV, or more, maybe getting more HD TVs, with the cheap sales. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't even seen the numbers. Maybe you guys have. I wonder if more people own an off-brand. Like I have a CK HD TV 1080, but it's not Toshiba. It's not one of the higher end, but it looks really good. And I don't want a 4K TV. I'm not interested in buying a $2,000 4K TV, or even a $1,500 one. And I think Apple knows that the market isn't ready for it. So putting it on there would be kind of one of those brag points. But I think they know that it's not a killer to not have it.
Well, I think the market is ready for it. I would say, the thing is that people are happy with their existing TVs. Nobody's going to upgrade their existing 1080p TV for a 4K set. But when they actually do need a new TV, I think it's probably going to be 4K. I mean, I saw I think it was a 50-inch, maybe 40, maybe 45 or so, for 45 to 50-inch 4K TV for $500 the other day, on sale. It was probably an off-brand. I don't remember the details. I just saw some advertisement about it. But 4K TVs are coming down in price.
Well,
You
yeah, I
know,
mean,
they're
500, yeah, $500 4K TV, I would certainly buy.
yeah, yeah. If you're in that sub 50-inch range, 4K and 1080 are like why not? They're really close in price right now. So it doesn't even matter. It's when you get into that 60-inch, 70-inch range, that's where you're going to be spending like $1,000 more for the 4K one versus the 1080 one, just because it's that range is not as established yet. Those massive sizes are still only like a year or two old. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think as people start to upgrade, they're definitely going to be going 4K and not going 1080p. I don't think it's going to, I think as far as new TV sales are going, I think 4K is going to start to overtake 1080 pretty quickly. So if you're talking about the next Apple TV a year from now, at the earliest, being a 4K set, I think by then you're going to see a lot more 4K sets in the home.
It just seems that 4K is so mature at the moment. It really is a mature platform with well-established standards. I'm shocked that Apple has not come out with 4K. They seem like a company more than capable of supporting it. You see Fire TV, like you pointed out today, Elias, there's a patent out there which makes everybody believe there will be a 4K Fire TV soon. Roku already has 4K Roku TVs. Of course, every Android little device that comes out based off of Android now seems to have 4K with it. That, a year or two from now, there's a lot of people who really want 4K streaming to their TV. That would leave the Apple TV far behind the competition.
At the 4K breakfast at CES, and the head of MLB, the MLB TV, their streaming arm that's getting in with everybody, WWE, HBO now. They've been innovative, and he didn't think that was a big factor. He said that some people said there are people who contact us now and then because they've heard that it's the best thing, so there's interest. But he said that like the majority of people that use their services aren't clamoring for it. I mean, that was last year. Maybe it's completely changed now. But I think Elias said the good eye on the $500 4K TV. I mean, it's the price point that makes them not worth it to most people. If you can start getting cheap 4K TVs, then people will buy them just because it's not that expensive. So, I need a new TV. I might as well get this one. I just don't think that people are going to, get a loan for a new TV.
Well, that's kind of the thing is in the next year, it is widely expected that there will be a, 4K TVs will continue to come down. You already got $500 knockoffs. How long is it until you see a Samsung $500 32-inch, 40-inch, whatever, 4K TV with everything you would want? It does feel that would be a major drawback. Now, Apple's benefit is the ability to say, hey, if you're an iPhone user, you buy an app on the iPhone, it appears on your Apple TV. But I'm not so sure, how many people are going to want to use the same apps on their phone on their TV when you got your phone sitting right there? That's a selling point, but not a huge one at the moment. It'll be interesting to see what people do with that in the future.
Well, do keep in mind that Chromecast has sold a lot of devices on that exact concept.
And the fact that it's only, in most places, like $25 right now. This starts off with basically 140, right? 130?
By the way,
150, excuse me.
The thing that I wanted to add, I'm really surprised they didn't have a game controller. Just show it off a little bit. That you can use the remote for the thing. But I'm kind of surprised that they didn't say and like Amazon and other people have. I wonder if they think that that's a bad model. Or maybe just let third-party people come up with it.
Yeah, they're definitely going. They're definitely going the third-party route. It looks like because in the latest iOS they introduced controller support, official controller support, and when they mentioned they put up that slide with some of the developer points like JavaScript and that kind of stuff. One of them on there was game controller, so they're definitely supporting game controller, but they're not doing anything first party there.
Right.
So the controller, their controller connects with Bluetooth, so they're probably going to focus on Bluetooth game controllers, and you could probably sync one up pretty easily, I bet, to the
Oh,
new
I'm
Apple TV.
sure. Like out where at my mall, I wonder if they're all set up the same. Right next to the Apple store is like Brookstone, and Brookstone has all these different accessories for iPad. From laser keyboard projectors to different cases and things like that. And I would imagine, before too long, there'll be controllers in there and things like that. Multiple buttons, controllers that look like Nintendo controllers, things like that.
Mhm.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm just glad that they did announce TV. Oh, I couldn't take another. Well, I could take it, but it would have been frustrating to have another, thing go by with maybe next time. Maybe there's going to be an October event. So I mean, it's out there now, and now we get to watch what everybody else does. I mean, what will Roku do? I think that's an interesting question. Exactly, how will exactly when and how will Amazon react to it? Because like Luke says, competition, and that's the American way. Got to keep it rolling. So it could be exciting for all of our listeners, all of our readers, and I hope to see people continue to innovate.
It will be interesting to see what the competition does for this, and competition's good when there's a healthy competition. Technologies advance forward. So I hope they do that quickly, and that there is competition.
The new iPhone 6s includes a new
All right,
second generation touch
gentlemen,
ID
I must sign out. There is family responsibilities to be taken care of on this end. I'm glad we could all be together and do this. This was neat. I hope everybody listening enjoyed, and if you did, thanks for coming, and let us know how we did. Give us some feedback. But everybody have a good day. I'm signing out.
All right, Ryan, take care.
It's truly beautiful.
Take it easy.
So what do you think, Elias? Is there any possibility there's one more thing here that will be some type of streaming service, iTunes video type announcement, or do you think the cord cutting things here are Apple's laid it all on the table already?
That's 50% more.
Yeah, no, I don't think. It'd be pretty silly to do one more thing that's Apple TV related after they do the iPhone stuff, So, yeah, don't think we'll miss anything cord cutting related. We've pretty much seen all we've seen.
Should we do a little quick summary, wrap this all up in a nice, neat bow?
Yeah. So we saw a new Apple TV. Finally, after 3 years of probably waiting and hearing rumors, as we said, it's $149 for the 32 gigabyte model, $199 for the 64 gigabyte model. Biggest focus would be probably Siri Search and the App Store, or not just Siri Search, but just Siri capabilities, because you kind of have all the weather and the news and all that capable stuff through it. Wanna pick up where I'm leaving off here.
Siri is included currently on 5 apps. Planned to be rolled out more across other apps, which is nicely in line with the fact that they're supporting third-party apps. It's a different OS. It's not iOS on this. It's what they call it, tvOS, I believe was the name they gave it.
Yeah, tvOS, but they said it was based on iOS, so it's pretty close.
And they do say if you buy an app with your iPhone and there's a Apple TV version, you will get that version on your phone, on your tablet, and on your TV. So that's a huge possibility there. It'll be interesting to see what type of apps are built to be cross-platform support with that. There is a touchpad on the remote along with traditional buttons, including a volume control, which is kind of an interesting touch a lot of people have asked for on other devices. Both with IR and, what was that other standard they called it, Elias? The new one?
You mean Bluetooth? The HDMI. So the Apple TV itself is capable of CEC HDMI, so it can communicate. If your television is capable of it, it can communicate to your television through the HDMI cable, and therefore change the input, turn on the TV even. So it's a nice feature. Most modern TVs have that feature, so you'll be able to, with your TV off, just pick up your Apple TV remote and just basically wake up your Apple TV, and it will turn on your TV for you and change the input. It's not a unique feature. A lot of Blu-ray players have that feature. They kind of were the first ones that had that, and the Fire TV has it, and you know, that kind of boxes have it too. But that volume on the remote is definitely nice, because that's not through CEC. That's definitely just talking straight from the remote to your TV over IR.
Nice. And CC thank you. I couldn't remember what that was called there for a moment.
Yeah, it's actually got several names, I think, even. So it's one of those things that it's hard to remember.
So those are kind of the highlights. No new streaming apps announced that I noticed. Everything is there now, is already out there. HBO Now, Showtime Anytime, Netflix, Hulu. When you did search for any content through their universal search, if it was for sale, it was only for sale through the iTunes store, so you're still extremely heavily tied in there. And no talk about how open it will be. I'm assuming we won't be seeing Kodi come in through the App Store. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So that is kind of the highlights. Am I missing anything, Elias?
No, I mean, definitely the biggest missing thing was content. They kind of just glanced over what you can actually view through the device. I think they're gonna just wait on the app ecosystem to kind of build up for that before they really highlight it. Right now it's just about the hardware and not about what you can view through it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covers the new Apple TV pretty well.
You are kind of you got that kind of side of the development phase. How quickly, now that from everybody's understanding that the device has just come live out there, or the new development kits are just going out before we start seeing new good apps come out? A month, you think?
Yeah, at the latest. I mean, it's probably going to be pretty simple. I mean, being based on iOS, it basically means that everybody who's already got an app can probably run it already on the device. It's just a matter of tweaking the interface so that it can work with the remote instead of a touch screen. And really, that kind of modification is a lot easier than the reverse, because when you're talking about going from touch to a remote, you're really stripping out elements as opposed to adding elements. So, you know, as far as apps that take advantage of the motion in the remote, that will probably take a little while, because you got to kind of that's unique. That's a brand new thing that developers are going to have to figure out. But as far as, say, for example, you know, Pluto TV or Tubi TV, those guys will probably have apps out within weeks. You know, we'll have apps ready within weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised that once this thing actually makes it to people's homes, we'll have all of the main apps already in the App Store fully working on this device.
Well, they have until the end of October, because we're not expecting the new Apple TV to come until then. I'm assuming pre-orders will be available later today when the Apple Store comes available, and probably start seeing at other locations like Best Buy, Amazon, and other stores should have pre-orders available too. So check out your favorite retailer to get your hands on it if you're looking to drop $150, $200. Here, one last question, and then I think we'll wrap this up. Elias, the hard drive. Do you really think the 64 gig, $200 Apple TV is worth it? You know,
it is for gaming. So a lot of these games are, you know, even the simple stuff is getting up there in size, because, you know, when you're talking about 2 to 6 gigabytes per game, if you're looking to install games on this thing, you're gonna fill up that 32 gig pretty quick. I mean, it's really nice to see they didn't kind of cheap out on that and go with like a 16 gig or even worse, an 8 gig, like you see on the Fire TV. But yeah, as far as the 64 gig, you're only going to need that if you want gaming, really. 32 gig is definitely plenty if you're looking to use this device primarily as a video consumption product. If you want gaming, you're gonna probably want to go up for that 64 gig if you want a whole bunch of games accessible, you know, whenever you know, at your fingertips.
All right, so it is a wrap. I think that is everything that Apple will announce. Do you want to hang out, Elias, to see if there's an iTunes section talked about here at all, or do you not think that's going to happen?
Beautiful picture. And what are pictures? They're these
I don't think it'll
magic
happen, but
moments
I'm
frozen
totally fine with hanging out.
in
Yeah,
time.
let's just hang out here. It's I bet there's only about 15 more minutes left of this coverage, and we'll edit it all down. But yeah, why don't we, as we sit here, wait? Do you think this is a killer product? Will this put Apple back on top in the long run? We're not talking about the fact that, yes, Apple has a lot of fans that will go buy this right away. But a year from now, when we're looking at the top selling streaming boxes, will that be Apple with this device as it is today?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got everything that the competitor has. So from a feature standpoint, it's pretty even. You know, the Fire TV I think is more customizable because it's Android based and you can do the side loading. So there's definitely more potential there, but I don't think that's a selling feature for most people. I think people just use the device mostly for what is built in. So I do think this will make its way to the top of the streaming box list just because of just the sheer number of iPhone users out there and iPad users, and then just the size of the app ecosystem. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be at the top pretty soon.
I'm interested to see what happens. I just wonder if you're an iPhone user and you went and got a Fire TV or a Roku 3. I hear from a lot of people who've done that because they've been unhappy with the lack of options on the old now Apple TV. I wonder if this is enough to make you come back and drop $200 on a new Apple TV when if you're looking for a streaming box, there really isn't anything here that is not as a streaming box to stream your content available on the Roku and the Fire TV. Yep, it can give you the weather, it can give you the scores to the game on your phone or on your TV, but I got that on my phone, and I'm unsure if I'm gonna stop the video I'm playing to go look at the scores when I could pick up my phone and grab that.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that line around the block type of device. That's for sure. I don't think people are gonna run in. I mean, looking at the price, if you're just looking to stream 1080p videos from your favorite services, compared to like the $39 Fire TV stick and this device, they don't do that much different as far as streaming video goes. So, it's not going to be that disruptive device that just throws the whole market, upside down. But just because of how popular Apple is, it's going to be on the top of the list.
I agree with you. There will be a time, especially the first few months it comes out, that it will sell. It will sell well. But I do not believe it's there's anything particularly special here for cord cutters to make them want to jump all over this compared to other similar devices that are, let's be honest, half the price or a third the price of what this is.
There are 23
Yeah,
bands of
I
wireless
agree.
LTE networking. That's the most in any smartphone. In fact, it makes iPhone unquestionably the best phone for traveling around the world. Wi-Fi is faster too. It's up to twice as fast. And of course, every iPhone 6S and 6S Plus runs
It is
iOS
interesting.
9 and all the great features that we've talked
I just
about,
wonder how
from new
quickly they're going to come out with the
advancements
next
in
version.
Siri to proactive
They're not going to be able to wait 3 years to put out another Apple TV since they left so much on the table here. Will we see an Apple TV this time next year is the question.
I think we will because of the streaming service. I mean, that's the big question for me, is the streaming service from them. Is it dead, or is it now being saved for the next generation Apple TV? Or are we going to see an announcement in a few months saying, Apple TV has been selling great, and now we've got a new streaming service to go along with it. I don't think they're going to sit if they're really right on the edge of getting all those deals done for the streaming service. I don't think they're going to sit a whole year on that because that's a long time. But yeah, it's tough to say.
they wait a
There's new
whole
silicone
year to
covers
put
and
that streaming
11
service out.
new colors.
You know,
In fact, one of them is
rumors
great
are we'll
product
see
red.
ESPN service early next year,
That's
standalone.
iPhone 6S
And
6S
once
Plus.
that ball
Of
starts
course,
rolling, it's just going to go
as all
downhill.
Apple
We're going to
products
see
are, they're
more
made
and more
most
channels.
environmentally
A&E's
friendly
rumored to
way
come out with their
possible.
own streaming service,
Mercury-free LED
and so
display
forth.
glass. Come on, you can say it with me.
You know,
Arsenic-free
that
displays,
may be the
BFR-free,
a la carte
beryllium-free,
TV of the future. You know,
PVC-free,
where
and of
hey,
course,
you get the
highly
A&E channel for
recyclable
$5, you get
glass.
ESPN for 10 or 15, whatever,
I
and
told you, these
you
are
know,
our
if you
most
want Showtime,
advanced phones ever. In fact, the
HBO,
most advanced phones in the
CBS
world.
now,
Just
you know,
look
where
at everything embodied in
wherever
these
you
new
want, you
phones.
pick up the
And
few
use
channels you
3D
want.
touch
There's no
experience, transforming how we
yearly
interact
contracts. You
with
pay
our
month to
phones.
month when
The
the
strongest
show you
material
want
yet, our
is
7000
there.
series
There you go.
aluminum.
If you want
The
football
strongest
season,
cover
get
glass in
ESPN during
the
football
industry.
season,
Our new 64-bit
and you're done.
third generation A9 chip.
Yeah,
Our
yeah. I
second
mean,
generation
the
Touch
the
ID,
thing to keep in
twice
mind
as
is that
fast.
if you know if
Faster
all of these
LTE,
different
twice as
services like
fast.
ESPN
Faster
and
Wi-Fi,
you know
twice as fast.
come
New
out with
12
their a la
megapixel
carte options,
eyesight camera
that's not
with
going to
4K
leave
video
the
editing.
Apple
New
TV in
5
the dust in
megapixel
any way.
FaceTime
You know, the
HD
Apple
camera.
TV is going to
A
just
retina
thrive because of that. Because
flash on the
I'm
front
sure
side, so
when
you can
you know,
FaceTime
if
with pictures
ESPN is
of your
working on their
loved
streaming
ones.
service and
Of
they're just
course,
about to
I
release
think
it,
you're gonna love
it'll
streaming
probably come to the
Apple
Apple TV
Music
first,
live
just because
photos.
that's going to probably
So
be
what's new?
the biggest market
iPhone's gonna cost?
pretty
Well,
soon.
let's bring back
So
the previous
you know,
generation and start
it's
with
the
that.
it's the
iPhone
Sling
6
TV
and
type
iPhone 6
services that
Plus, which have been
pull in
huge hits
all the
around
different
the
networks
world,
into one service.
were priced
That
this
if
way.
those
Starting at
start to grow
$199
too
on iPhone
rapidly,
6
then
and
Apple's streaming service
$299 on iPhone 6
has
Plus. And
you know
this is
possibly an issue
typical carrier
with
contracts,
being
right?
too
Robust
late.
carrier contracts.
But
We're very
yeah, if they
proud
can
to
get
give the new iPhone
you know, an
6S,
established
new 6S Plus
customer
will come
base
in
for this new
at
Apple
the
TV
exact
just
same
based on the
prices
fact that
and same
they're going to be
configurations.
app versions of all the content they want, and then on top of that, they release a streaming service. You know,
And now this is
that's
how
a
our
1-2
lineup
punch
will
right
look.
there.
iPhone 5S
It'll
moves
be
down to
it'll be
become
interesting. I
the
mean,
entry-level iPhone
if they did do
available
this
on
now, they would be
24-month
dead in the
contracts
water.
for free. iPhone 6 and 6
But
Plus are going to be
I don't think
$100
this is
less
going to
expensive.
reclaim the
There are
top
a lot
streaming
of
set-top
customers
box in the
going to be
long
very
term for them.
excited about this. And the 6S and 6S Plus
Yeah, we'll
take
have to
their
wait and
place
see.
at the top end of the line. And as we know, many customers now are not
You know, it is
buying their
interesting. You
phones
know,
on a 24-month
pretty much
contract.
everything announced here is
Instead,
something that other
buying
streaming
them
devices have done.
with
The
installment
new
plans. So here are
iPad
typical installment
is,
plans
you know,
for
the
these
number
new
one
phones.
trending
As you can see, and they were
word
verified
on Twitter in the
carrier.
United States
Prices
was
begin
the
as low as
Microsoft Surface,
$19 a month and
because
go up
everybody was
to
calling it
$41
the
a month.
iPad
So the simple
Surface,
truth is, on a
Yeah.
making direct
installment plan,
comparisons, and so much that
anything you want is
number
pretty
one
affordable.
trending on Twitter.
So in addition to this pricing, we
You
have one
know,
other set of pricing to
what
tell you about.
has there been anything really
And that is a great
revolutionary?
program starting
I mean,
in
even
our
look at the
Apple
iPhone,
retail
$100
stores,
more,
starting first here in the US,
more
and then growing around the
faster
world.
Wi-Fi,
It's a program
more
called the
LTE
iPhone
bands to make it
Upgrade
easier to
Program.
travel around the
So
world.
if you're like me and you
You
like to
know,
have a new iPhone every
I don't know.
single
I mean,
year,
what's been very
this is the
revolutionary
best way
today?
to do
The
that.
stylus,
With the iPhone
saying
Upgrade
that's
program, you can get a new iPhone every
the
year.
pencil will be
When
better
you get
than
it, you choose your
other
carrier.
styluses out
It
there.
is an unlocked phone.
Yeah,
It
they,
includes
they
the
definitely
Apple Care
haven't
Plus
had
program,
a
and it starts at
massive,
just $32
you know,
a
anything
month.
huge coming
Again,
out of
it's a
this. I mean,
24-month
that kind of
installment, but you can get a
maybe
new
explains
iPhone
why they
every
were so
single
willing
year.
to put so many product releases in one event, because no one product is a
So
massive
when can you get the new iPhone
improvement
6S
over
and 6S Plus?
existing
Well, you can
products.
pre-order starting
But
this
it's
Saturday,
a good
September
refresh
12th.
across the board. It looks like,
And then it'll be
you
available in
know,
just 2
we
weeks,
expect
September
this new
25th.
iPhone
In the following
6S
countries,
to
Australia,
kind of be
Canada, China,
underwhelming
France,
as far as the
Germany,
feature,
Hong Kong,
because it is
Japan,
the S
New
model.
Zealand,
You know,
Puerto
it's
Rico,
only
Singapore,
it's
United
the
Kingdom,
talk
and
of
of
the
course,
you
the
know, the
United
TikTok
States.
cycle.
By the end of this
So
year, we'll have rolled out iPhone
you know,
6S
it's got
and 6S Plus
the
in over
Force Touch
130
feature,
countries
and it's
with
got
over
a few new
400 carrier
tricks up
partners.
its sleeve, but
We're
nothing
also
that's
going to
gonna
want to run iOS
be
9 on all
revolutionary.
of our
That's kind of
devices.
that's
I'm
the
very happy to
next
tell you that review will
iteration
become available this
product
next week on
goes.
September
And
16th.
even the iPad Pro is still kind of an iteration on the existing iPad. There's you know, no killer feature
With
about it.
iOS, of
But
course, you want
but
to
yeah,
have your
it's
iCloud account
you know,
supporting
it's
all
not
that
a huge
awesome
event for them, but
capability.
it's
It comes
definitely
with
a
5
good
gigs
refresh
for
overall,
free
I
with
think.
each account, but we have some new pricing if you want to upgrade to more capacity. So we want to make sure you knew about about that. The capacity for iCloud now
It'll
is
be interesting to
50
see what
gigabytes for
happens.
just 99 cents a month.
You know, I'm seeing that
200
some
gigabytes for $2.99,
the
a full
preview,
terabyte
the
for $9.99 a month.
pre-orders
That's
for
half the price.
iPhones and all that kind of stuff is coming
that
actually
is all the great
Saturday,
news on the new
September
iPhones.
12th. So I
Back
wonder
to
if we'll be
Tim.
able to order the Apple TV before then, or if pre-orders will start there at the same time they start with the iPhone.
These new iPhones
Yeah, I don't know what to see. Looks like they're gonna wrap up. They're doing the iPhone 6S ad right now with
This is
Tim
kind of
Cook, and then he'll probably
do that. We
Yeah.
made an
Yeah.
ad. I'd
This is
love
the
to
moment
show
I've been waiting for to see if he's going to come back
This
on
is
after this and say
iPhone
one
6s.
more thing.
Not much has
Mhm.
changed,
Can't
We'll see.
imagine what that would
It
be right
responds
now
to the
unless it's
pressure of
something
your
with iTunes, like it comes out and says,
so you can peek into stuff.
you know, subscription service
And
coming to
prompts to
iTunes or something.
Which changes how you play a song. Read a text. Read an email.
Yeah, we'll see.
Read the news. Wait, you read the news?
Yep.
Of course you do. Now you can change apps like this. Pay at more places like this. And the new
Man,
color
that app
looks like
switcher
this. It's rose gold. It's
Looks
awesome.
just like Roku,
And Siri
or
is
excuse
more
me,
helpful than
Android
ever.
on the iPhone.
Show me photos
Oh,
of
yeah.
Tortellini.
Here are some images of tortellini.
Maybe get takeout? The camera shoots 4K video now, which changes how your movies look. Nice.
You know, the
Even
phone
selfies
does
have
4K
changed.
video.
Now your screen
How
is the
bizarre
Yeah,
button.
it
That's gonna get like
to have a 4K
1 million
video
likes.
phone, but not a 4K
Actually,
video
photos
TV.
themselves have changed. They move now.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
not
touch them.
too bizarre.
So yeah,
Just
that's
because
what's
they needed to do 4K video to catch up with Android, because you know, all the big flagship Android phones have 4K video, and they have had it for a year now. So they had to do this catch up regardless of what they're doing with Apple TV.
You know,
I love that ad.
the Roku TV has 4K.
Huge warning
Everything.
for
I mean, that
us.
FCC filing pretty much
All new
guarantees
models
4K. Fire
and new
TVs
bands
coming
for
out
the
any
Apple
time
Watch
now.
With Watch
I-
OS
you
2
know,
bringing
that, if
incredible
anything, is boggling my
capabilities and
mind.
native apps right to your wrist. An
Well, it's about the
all-new,
content. If they
bigger,
did
and
4K on the
more
Apple TV,
powerful
they would need to
iPad.
partner with a
Most
4K
powerful we've
content
ever
provider. They can't
created.
just say,
And
we've
from
do, you know, the Apple TV now
and
does
you'll miss
4K, and then
in
just
the world.
move on without
iPhone
saying what you're going to
6s,
watch with that 4K.
Netflix,
iPhone 6s
done.
Plus.
4K
Yeah.
Start with the
We've got
Netflix streams.
two
I
great
honestly
hands-on
don't think they
experiences
want
for you
to
today
highlight
to look
Netflix
at
that
all of
much.
these
I think
amazing
if they're
products.
working on their own
Make sure
service,
that you
they
go to
are going to be a
both of
direct
them.
competitor
They're
to
quite
Netflix.
different, and you'll miss
So I don't
something
think
if you don't go to
they did
both.
not bring anybody from a
I'd like to take
on
a
stage
minute
that
and recognize
kind of
everyone
streamed
from
video,
Apple
and
who
that's
worked
huge.
so
They
hard
brought on game
on
developers to
delivering
show off that
all of the
aspect of
great
Apple
things
TV,
you've
but they
seen this
didn't
morning.
bring
Please stand
in
up.
even
I am
HBO,
applauding
because
you.
when they announced HBO Now, they brought somebody from HBO onto the stage to say HBO Now is coming to the iPhone. They did not even invite HBO Now. I think it's because they are now direct competitors with these companies. I think that's one big advantage that Amazon is going to have, is that they are
It
their
is such a
own
privilege.
4K content provider.
It is
And
such
so
a
when
privilege
they
to work
when they
with
release that 4K
teams
Fire
that
TV,
commit themselves to
hopefully
doing the
this
best
month
work of
or
their lives
next
to
month,
make
probably
other
at the
people's
latest,
lives better.
they're going to say you can watch
Now,
this on 4K. These are the
before we
great shows
go,
coming to
since we're
4K.
in a
So
legendary
that's a huge
music
difference,
venue,
and Apple was
we
just not
thought it
ready
would
for
be
that, I
only
think.
appropriate
If that is
to
how the
close with a
relationship's going to be with content
sensational
creators
music act.
and app developers,
We
it makes me
have
think that this
one of
won't
my
work.
absolute favorite
Because
bands
why,
here. They're
you got the
wrapping up
Roku
a
out there
successful
with no
world
competition. They're
tour
more than
that
welcoming,
included
and I
43
got a feeling the Fire
countries.
TV is going to be
They have an
fairly
incredible
welcoming,
5
if not
platinum
very
singles
welcoming to
on their latest
you know,
album.
supporting.
But more
You see that with
importantly,
Sling TV
they
and so
are
forth.
great people, and their music
I don't know.
is absolutely
I
amazing.
feel like something's
Please
missing
join
here.
me
This
in
doesn't feel like a
welcoming
killer
One
app.
Republic.
Or device, I should say. Okay, we got the typical music. I'm gonna turn off the volume here so I don't get any copyright
good idea.
takedowns.
Good idea. Yeah, this probably confirms there isn't going to be a one more thing. I don't think they've ever done a one more thing after the musical, performance guest at
Well,
the
that-
end. This usually
Yeah.
signifies. I'll still stick around, but
I'll wrap up. I'll just read a few comments I've got so far. The Roku app will do the same thing as Siri. Here we go. It's a Siri. Don't think that the new Apple TV will be dominant. And another comment I've received so far is, as far as cord cutting is concerned, I'm a little disappointed for the Apple TV. So, no one's
Yeah, I
really
don't-
seems to be jumping up and down on any of my social media accounts saying, yay, here it is.
Yeah, one thing though to keep in mind is that the people who read cordcuttersnews.com and the people who read aftvnews.com, I consider them the elite. They are on the edge of the tech spectrum, where they want the best, they want the greatest, they want something revolutionary. That's what they're the early adopters. And the type of people who buy Apple devices are not the early adopters usually. They're the ones, Apple usually comes in just, a year later after the early adopters and kind of just fine tunes what the earlier devices have, you know. So the Apple TV is kind of a fine tuning of what Roku and the Fire TV might offer, but they're not going to. They usually Apple devices usually don't appeal to the early adopter mindset, I think. So I'm not surprised that it's not, that most of our readers are going to be a bit underwhelmed.
I agree. But early adopters, the ones that often lead where these markets end up. So time will tell.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
I don't know. The only other thing I think we failed to mention in our recap was Apple Music comes to Apple TV in a move that I think everybody expected.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal because Apple Music itself has been a bit underwhelming for most people. It's you expect it to be there on Apple TV. I don't know if it's going to be a main feature there. I don't think too many people are going to be buying an Apple TV for Apple Music, primarily. So definitely worth mentioning, but not too important.
Yep, it is what it is, as they say in the end. It does. All this makes me wonder, why didn't this come out at the last event? Was it June or was it July? I can't remember. It feels like this should have been part of that announcement.
Yeah, definitely. I think they probably had it ready, as ready as it is now. I don't think there was anything, but I bet you it was just that service. I think they were still trying to work that service. They wanted to. All the rumors, all the sources inside of Apple talking to Wall Street Journal and those publications, they all seem to indicate that Apple has been desperately trying to get those service deals down, and they haven't been able to. And so I think there's no way they planned to have this many devices, or sorry, these many new devices, new announcements in one event. I don't think that's good for them. They probably wanted the Apple TV to be part of the previous event. So, that way it would have been the Apple Watch and the Apple TV event, and then this would have been the iPad and the iPhone event, which totally makes more sense than this being the new iPad, new iPhone, new Apple TV, all in one big massive event. I mean, definitely probably wasn't how they planned it initially, how they wanted it to go, but they just can't get those services down.
It really makes me think that this service is not going to happen anything like what we expected, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I even question whether it's going to happen at all now at this point. I mean, coming out there and saying the future of TV, the first thing that he said was the future of TV is apps. That does not mingle with a service, because if the service existed, that would have been the future. They would have come out and said that the appification of your content is the wrong approach. You don't want to hop from app to app when you're watching, content. You want it all in one unified interface, and that's what the Apple service would have been. That's what I envision they wanted out of the ideal presentation. But I think they kind of just changed it all up because they couldn't get that service down, and so then they had to say, well, apps are all we've got. Apps are our big feature now. Apps and Siri. And so we're running with it, and so that's now the future.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that at least I am left wondering if there is going to be a streaming service.
Yeah.
If they couldn't get it done now, and they decide to bring the Apple TV out without it, knowing that they would get knocked for that, it leads me to think that there probably isn't one. But they could. I mean, there's nothing to say they couldn't come out with it. It's going to make it more difficult to be successful.
Yeah, Apple in general has never been good at services. Period. Something where you're paying a subscription to have access. They've got kind of their iCloud service where they want your files stored, and you pay for extra storage there. It's an ongoing service. They've never really gotten that down. They always get blasted for how poor their services are. And so this would have been their big service, next to Apple Music. That's kind of their other big service right now. It just seems they don't have what it takes to do good services, unfortunately.
No, I mean they'll get together. The closest thing they have to a service that's been successful is Apple or iTunes, excuse me.
The App Store probably. But
Yeah,
that's not really a service. You're not paying Apple themselves a monthly fee for access to something for a service, that they just don't really have that. You don't have to necessarily be paying for it. Google is primarily a service company, but you don't pay for any of their services.
I agree.
They've got Gmail, they've got Calendar, they've got YouTube. It's all free, but it's all really a service that you're locked into, that you use constantly, you know. And Apple just doesn't have that. They sell you the hardware, they sell you the software, and then your connection with them, is done. Your connection with their servers is pretty much done, other than iCloud. And so they just haven't gotten that down yet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off. I don't know. It's kind of, when we came out and said the future TV's apps is basically what I've been saying for a long time. The future is not a la carte TV, cable channels. It's a la carte content. It's, if you want on demand, I mean, it's what Tim Cook said. You want your content on demand. Well, on demand TV is probably the future. And they could maybe come out with some type of deal on iTunes side in the future, instead of saying, we're going to go and give you access to ESPN Live. Instead, we're going to go and give you bundles on A&E shows. You buy for a season and a half, and we'll give you a discount on it or something.
Yeah, but I don't think purchasing individual movies and individual content will ever disrupt cable subscriptions. No matter how good the bundles are, no matter how good. I mean, unless you're talking about, say, subscribing to a studio, for example, a production studio like AMC, you get to own all of your AMC content for an annual fee or something. But, then you're talking about just kind of an a la carte subscription service. So, it's not different enough. It's not disruptive enough for the industry. But, you kind of need that. People want one monthly subscription that gives them access to everything they want to watch. That's the ideal, and that's what this Apple service was supposed to be. And that's what they're trying to build. But we'll have to wait and see, because Sling TV is kind of the closest thing to that, but they still don't have a lot of the networks on board, and probably because the networks are weary. They don't want to make bad decisions that kind of lock them into something for too long.
Well, the future is shows. Looking at the trends right now, the only thing trending still from this event is the iPencil. iPhone, none of that is in the top trending. Though I just refreshed it, and Apple must be freaking out a little bit because they just paid to promote the Apple event. It's promoted by the Apple Store Twitter account. Under US trending. That is kind of shocking. Typically when these events happen, Twitter is trending all the products that have been announced. And yes, they are paying to have the Apple event be a trending topic, paid for by the App Store account. And then the second to last trending topic in the United States at the moment is the iPencil. So that clearly... Yep,
I was going to say that the iPencil is the only absolutely 100% brand new device. I mean, it's really even an accessory. It's not a device. So,
doesn't surprise me that is the big takeaway from this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's kind of wrap this up. I think we're done here. Let's put a fork in it. Thank you to everybody who is watching. We still got a small crowd. It's been a good crowd through most of the show, and I know after the Apple TV was announced, most headed out. But if you're listening now, you missed any part of this coverage, we will have a podcast available on the I'm blanking out on the new domain name. Elias, help me all a second.
TheCordCuttingShow.com.
Thank you. TheCordCuttingShow.com. I'm tripping over myself. Had to take a drink of water there.
That's all right.
And it'll be on all of our sites. I'll have that up here in an hour, a little condensed summary of all the Apple TV coverage. We apologize for the slight outage in the middle there. But hey, it's the first live coverage here. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll probably be doing more of these as other big events happen throughout the year. And we'll continue to give you the latest and best coverage of everything cord cutting.